Hi friends, Joseph Anthony here, and welcome to this month's New Moon Outlook. This one for September the 2nd, 2024. And since this one's going to be a new moon in Virgo, Virgo's very analytical, very critical, and I've called this one Practical Analysis, because what's going to happen during this new moon is that we're going to look at every little tiny bit of information and aspect of our lives and try to dissect it up and down, back and forth. And that's what happens when we have a new moon in Virgo. So everyone has this in their chart. It depends on where it is. But I'm going to give you a general overview of what this new moon looks like. There'll be some charts. I will be talking about Mr. T and Kamala. I do have their birth charts, and I'm going to go into this and see how this new moon affects them. But this month, we also have a powerful lunar eclipse in Pisces on the 17th, and I will cover that. And I will dive into their charts as well. And so we have a very interesting month ahead, as they all are right now. So as I've been saying since 2024, the beginning of 2024, I said that as we go into the fall season, it's going to get weirder and stranger, and the energy is going to get a little wonky. And we're going to see some of that in this month, and especially in October, and again in November, because of the alignments between Mars in Cancer and Pluto in Capricorn, especially in the United States' chart. So I will continue to focus on the United States' chart because the United States is absolutely going to continue to go through these changes in the next couple of months, and this is where I live. So anyway, let's get started. But I do have an announcement I'd like to make. The great Jason Brashears of Archaics reached out to me and wanted to have me on his program, on his podcast on YouTube. So I'm going to be on there Monday the 2nd on the new moon, and we'll be talking about hopefully the nature of reality. I'm open to whatever we need to discuss, but it'll be just a normal conversation, he and I. And Jason is one of my new favorite people because his wealth of knowledge is incredible about the history and the past. And I've read several of his books. I've watched, I don't know, maybe 150 to 200 hours of his videos on his channel. And it's Archaics 138. And so I'm looking forward to this conversation. I really am. We have a lot in common, but he's a wealth of knowledge. And so I'm going to share what I know, and he probably knows just as much as I do in regards to astrology and all that. But it'll be an interesting conversation. So please join us on his channel, Archaics 138. It'll be on Monday. It'll be live, and then I'm sure it'll be up there as a recording. So check it out, okay? Now, let's go back to the Virgo new moon. So here are the traits associated with Virgo. Now, of course, every sign has positive and negative traits. So here are the overview or the generalization of of Virgo. It's logical, hardworking, artistic, observant, faithful, kind, patient, responsible, reliable, and modest. Yes, it's an earth sign, okay? And so now we have the negative sides, of course: critical, stubborn, uptight, worried, people-pleasing, frustrated easily, overly independent, irritable, and picky. This can be one of the pickiest signs because they are constantly analyzing everything. And the reason they do that is because they're trying to perfect things. Subconsciously, the Virgo energy, wherever that Virgo is in your chart, especially if you have planets in Virgo, you're constantly looking for perfection. You're constantly looking for to make things better. And this is what the sign represents. This is why it's represented by a female. This is the energy of the universe, is feminine in nature, especially the earth. And the energy of the sun is masculine in nature. But the feminine energy is one of nurturing and caring and trying to take care of. And Virgo captures that essence perfectly. So, but the other things associated with Virgo are health, everything to do with health. This is why she has a sheaf of wheat in her hands. Most of the time she's depicted with a sheaf of wheat because she's associated with agriculture and wheat and cooking and, perfecting ingredients and so on. But this is the sign associated with health, anything to do with health, okay? And unfortunately, sometimes the Virgo energy becomes a little obsessive. They become a little bit more hypochondriac-ish. Not everyone, but I'm being very general here. And so I'm just trying to give you an idea of what this sign or symbol is all about. And so this new moon is going to highlight this sign. Okay, so let's take a little deeper look at this new moon. This is the overview. This is the new moon. And so first, let's focus on the new moon. Here it is at 11 degrees of Virgo. So wherever that is in your actual birth chart, it's going to highlight that. And so this is a doorway for better health, better nutrition, starting exercise programs. It's great to do it on the new moon. The better time is even a solar eclipse. That has more staying power. But a new moon is a great opportunity to start something new in these areas, depending on where it is in your birth chart. So again, many of us will be looking towards better eating habits, or what we put in our bodies, or a little more exercise, or whatever it is. But that's the Virgo energy. Now, the way it's aspected, it's a little tricky, I'm going to be honest with you, because right away it opposes Saturn. Now, this could help or this could hurt the new moon. Virgo, generally speaking, is very organized and very meticulous and wants things to be perfect. And Saturn, on the other hand, is very restrictive. It is about boundaries. And it's in Pisces, also the opposite sign of Virgo. So these two are kind of at odds with each other. This is what oppositions are. It's a push and pull of the energy. But when you're up against Saturn, this is like, being up against an 18-wheeler and trying to pull that. It's a set object. It's set in its ways. It's a certain geometry and so on. And so what we have here is the opportunity to either put something in motion, and we're going to have to work at it, or to make it better and put the effort in order to make it happen, or you might find yourself resisting something. Like, oh, I don't want to exercise. Oh, I don't want to do that. And then all of a sudden you have this push and pull going on within yourself. You see, that's how it works. Now, we also have another aspect here. It's not as strong, but still, it's in the ballpark, okay? Jupiter in Gemini. And so this is still a bit of a square. It's loose, and these will reconnect again to Jupiter-Saturn square, which causes restrictions or causes us to look at things in a different way. One wants to expand, the other one wants to contract. And so even though we have a loose T-square here, this is still thinking, overanalyzing, something that Virgos do very well. So during this new moon, we're going to find ourselves overanalyzing things over and over again in our lives. My job sucks. I'm not sure what I want. I wish I could lose some weight. I wish I could do this. Because the Virgo energy is about perfection, and it's up against restrictive Saturn and squaring Jupiter in Gemini, the mind or thinking. You see what I'm saying? So it's a little tricky. I'm not going to lie to you. It's a little tricky. And so you're going to have to overcome some things in your own personal life. But that doesn't mean you can't do them. New moons give us the incentive. It's like they give us a little boost. And of course, Mercury is now out of retrograde. Where's Mercury? Right there. It's now moving forward in Leo, which is very good, because for almost the entire month of August, it was in retrograde, which was dragging us down mentally, emotionally. And we did have some tough alignments, especially with that full moon that we had in Aquarius. And then we had the Jupiter-Mars conjunction. All right. And then we also had Venus in Virgo, which was tough. Now we have Venus going through Libra, which is much better, much easier. And we have Mercury moving forward. So there's no reason why you can't put a little push, a little effort into what you want and get it. Okay. So that's going to be really important. Now let's get to some of this other stuff that I highlighted here. Okay. So as we start off the month of September, we have Uranus going retrograde. There it is in Taurus. And this is going to happen until January the 30th of 2025. It returns to 27 degrees of Taurus on May 17th, 2025. So what this means, and when I get to the USA chart, you'll know what I'm talking about, because right now Uranus in Taurus is squaring it's squaring the moon in the United States' chart at 27 degrees. That's a difficult alignment. And you could see in what's happening to us right now here in the United States is that there's this uncertainty about the election, there's uncertainty about the economy, there's uncertainty about where we're going, and that's the kind of, uncertainty with Uranus squaring the moon, because the moon wants security and it wants to be, wants to be safe. And Uranus is just, changing things up left and right. And I'll go into that chart in a minute. But we see that first of all. Then we see Pluto also backtracking into Capricorn for the last time in our lifetime. It'll only stay at 29 degrees for about almost 2 months until November 19th when it moves out of there. So Pluto retrogrades through Capricorn until October the 12th. Okay, there it is in retrograde. And then it'll start moving forward again on the 13th, and it'll finally leave Pluto for good on November 19th. Now, what does this mean? Because Pluto is the great destroyer, okay, the great transformer, it's in the sign of Capricorn at the last degree. It's like giving us one last look at some of these areas in our lives that need transformation. And since we're talking about Capricorn, we're talking about power, we're talking about structures, we're talking about governments, we're talking about banks, we're talking about, any of these organizations that control humanity. And so we're going to have another look at this over these next couple of months and how it's going to change society in that regard, okay? It's making a favorable alignment to Neptune, 29. But Neptune also has the ability to dissolve things. This is a spiritual sign. Neptune represents spirituality. And so since these two are in favor here, I'm seeing something being dismantled, something basically being taken apart. And if you look hard enough, you begin to see it. And I notice it when I look at the forums and I look at some of the news that's not on mainstream, that something is happening to where on the political scene, some of the players are going into offensive mode. I'll give you an example. Elon Musk. Elon Musk bought Twitter, turned it into X, and now he's teaming up with Mr. T. Just to give you an example, and he's going, it's like they're on offense now, going after some of these organizations that have been basically, controlling society. Another one is, as I'm doing this video today on the 27th of August, Mark Zuckerberg admits that he was told by the administration to censor all kinds of stuff on his platform. It's all over the news. Even mainstream media is being forced to cover it, but it's there. But what I'm getting at is Pluto and Neptune in this alignment will show us, reveal this stuff that's hidden and begin to dissolve it, just as I've given you these two examples. And the same holds true in other areas. The corruption in, corporations and government is all being exposed if you know where to look. If you're new to all of this, it's going to be harder for you to see it. It really depends on where you get your information from. And you have to go on the forums and you have to read a lot of garbage in order to make sense of it all. Okay? And it's not something for everybody. Not everyone has the capacity to dig deep and understand what's going on. But if you have that, that ability, like many of my viewers here understand what I'm talking about, great. Keep doing it. Keep revealing it. Keep revealing the truth. Keep revealing the stuff that's hidden below the radar. Okay, because that's how we're going to overcome, the future of control. And I'm talking about worldwide. I'm not just talking about in the United States. Okay, so we have these alignments going on as we begin the month. It's kind of a review process with the retrogrades, but with the new moon, it is about, especially in Virgo, analyzing information. So this entire month, we're going to be over-analyzing every aspect of our lives. That's why I said it's practical analysis, this new moon of practical analysis, okay? And of course, we also have Mars in Gemini, which is also kind of making a connection to Pluto and also to Neptune. And this is a square. This is a rough alignment, okay? But it'll be moving away in a couple of days. As a matter of fact, this month, Mars will enter Cancer, and I will cover that as well. All right, so I've given you a little bit of an overview of what this new moon looks like for you personally and politically, the political theater. Now, let's go into the United States' chart and see how important this new moon is. So here it is right there, and it's in the 9th house of legal issues, anything to do with legal matters, higher learning, education, media. And so we are seeing, I've been seeing some information from different states, especially Texas, once again, and I do have some slides here I would like to show you about information coming out on the legal side. And we know the Supreme Court has been active, and we know that the AG in Texas has been active. So that's part of the United States, and this is part of the, the energy that's coming forth. Now you'll notice here Pluto is retrograde, but it'll only stay at 29 degrees, but it's still pretty much a conjunction on the United States as Pluto. See, it's very close, 2 degrees off. So this is still considered a loose conjunction. Okay, so once again, something in the United States will continue to change. But here's the big news. Here is Uranus in the 6th house of health and service. And it's going retrograde. There it is in R. And it's exact 27 degrees to the moon and to Pluto. And so it's making a favorable alignment to Pluto, but it's making a what's called a square to the moon in Aquarius. This is a tough alignment. This is a tough adjustment. But here it's favorable. So what this is suggesting, because we also have Saturn being activated here, 16 degrees up against the new moon, this is something to do with information or matters of health. Now, if you've been following this channel or somebody else, I'm just going to say monkey. Okay, and that's something that you guys should understand. Monkey. That is, being forced upon us once again for some reason, and it falls under the umbrella in the United States under health and squaring the moon, and of course opposing Saturn. Saturn is about governments and control and agencies, and this one absolutely will show us in the next couple of weeks that there could be more information or more outbreaks or more news regarding the let's just say manufactured diseases. How's that? Okay, to push more fear. So there we have that alignment. We also see a loose square to Uranus in the United States' chart. So that is another indicator to me that something to do with health matters are on the table. So I'm going to say the next 2 weeks, because we're going through the sign of health, that there could be issues regarding health or news about it, or some new implementation, or some sort of, a scare tactic to, get people to go along with the program, so to speak. So please pay attention to this. Now, this is interesting because it aligns to both Plutos. This Mars in Gemini is making an alignment to this Pluto and that Pluto. So natal and transiting, which is an inconjunct, which means 150 degrees away. And so this means that there's a little bit of confusion going on here with regards to information and power, which we see in the political theater and, with these silly polls saying that the two candidates are neck and neck. They are not neck and neck. The media is making this stuff up. Okay? And so this is a very tricky time where information is going to be skewed. It's going to be misinformation on purpose, and it's going to go down to the wire. And I do believe that some event is going to occur that's going to delay the election, or we might not even have it. So I'm going to stick to that, and let's see what happens, okay? So let's move forward. Now, the reason I bring up health is because I came across this article. This is from the 10th. I'm not going to read it, but this is what they discovered. Okay, if you understand what this is, if you don't, please Google it. They've been using this for a long time, probably around 20, 30 years now. And they basically have been announcing this, billions of these people contaminated with this. Okay, so I'm just giving you an idea of what they're capable of. And by the way, there are many scientists that could verify this, but you're not going to find it online. You're not going to find it because of the AI censorship. And once again, I have to watch what I say here. That's why I have the private communities, the free community and the private community. So anyway, but this is one of the stories that I'm talking about, and it falls under the umbrella of the new moon in Virgo. Also here, this is on the forums. And of course, I cannot prove any of this, but this is one of the things that came up. Again, I'm not going to read it, but there we have another one of these who's talking about this, and it's actually a known side effect of this, which many of us realize this, that whatever that they were putting into our bodies, the people that took it, it was attacking the good, the good parts of the cells. And so we knew that this was not a normal, Okay, and Dr. Martin, David Martin, does a fantastic job of breaking it down, of what it really was. And he basically says it's a bio blank. Okay, use it. It starts with a W, bio W. All right, so this is another indication of health matters that we need to pay attention to in the next 2 weeks. Also, Portugal becomes one of 5 countries now to implement this. How's that? Remember, I've been saying all along, and we truthers have been saying all along, they're trying to get this implemented. They're trying to get something going on, where they're trying to get everyone to get on board with some sort of digital, card or something to do with this. And Portugal becomes the first state. And here's Redacted put this one out. I left a link down below. You could watch it for yourself. And here's that criminal organization that is in control of all of this, making, unelected bureaucrats, forcing, these countries to do what they're told. So this is really interesting to see this, okay? Oh, here is the legal aspect of it, because the new moon is going to fall into the United States' 9th house, is that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Arizona law that requires documentation for proof of citizenship. So this is a big win in Arizona. That and I live in Arizona, so they've been talking a lot about this. That you go to the polls, you better get ready to have proof of citizenship. So that seems to be something very important, and there are other states doing it too. But this was about a week ago. Anyway, and we also have the Texas AG also had an undercover operation showing how there was all kinds of shenanigans going on with their elections as well. And, illegal registrations of people that didn't belong there, belong in the state. And I believe the governor also made a big announcement that they removed about 1 million voters that didn't live there anymore, that didn't have addresses, or they couldn't verify any of the information. And so, again, we're seeing some movement in these places. All right, so let's see what happens. But let's go to Mr. T's chart. Okay, here he is in the middle. And here's the new moon in his first house. And it's at 11 degrees in his first house of identity and self. Now, I'm going to make a suggestion here. As I've been saying for a while, Mr. T has to watch his health. Because, I think that they, and many others online have been saying the same thing. They're not going to give up on trying to hurt him in some way. And this, because we're talking about health and we're talking about restriction here, there are some tough alignments here that I'm seeing, especially to his Uranus. So in these next 2 weeks, Mr. T has some surprises in the mix, but he needs to be careful about his health. That means another incident, falling down, getting sick in some way that appears, he has a virus or some sort of health issue. He really needs to pay attention to this because of the Virgo energy in his first house, because of Saturn in his 7th. And we're seeing a weakened Venus here also. But I'm saying it because of this. The Uranus is making an alignment to this new moon right here. So he really does need to pay attention to what he's doing. Okay, he will continue to be in the spotlight because Jupiter is in his sign in Gemini, will continue to be hovering over this area. We also have Uranus that has gone retrograde, which means that it's going to backtrack into 26 degrees, once again squaring his Mars in Leo. Leo rules the heart. So he really does need to pay attention to his health in these next couple of months as Uranus squares, as this moon gets activated. It's a very tricky time for him. Let's put it that way. Okay, and he also has Neptune squaring Mars right there. So he needs to be very careful about what he's doing. All right, I'm not saying he's going to get sick or pass away or anything like that. Okay, I don't wish any ill on anyone. So, but there is the new moon activation. I'm also going to cover Kamala's chart here. Okay, here it is in the middle. Now with her, it's very interesting. Here is the new moon in the 4th house of home, feeling, and foundation. This is the core, but it's opposing her Chiron right there with the Saturn right there also going through Uranus. She has some surprises in the mix this next couple of weeks because of Uranus being activated, and it's opposing her Chiron. So the nervous energy with her is going to continue to go through the roof. As you could tell when she does some of her speeches, she's very nervous, a lot of anxiety and so on. And so this is going to amp it up even more. By the way, Virgo rules the nervous system and the digestive system. Okay, so there's another alignment here. Now, what is also interesting is the retrograde of Uranus is going to be back on her Jupiter right here, which means things from the past will be resurfacing again, which is kind of normal if you're running a campaign. Your opponents are going to dig up as much dirt as they can as possible. But we could see here that she also has a square to Saturn. Saturn is loosely squaring Uranus right here. So once again, we're seeing that she's in an awkward position, okay, because of this square. She's in an awkward position, and I'm sure that there's tons of pressure on her, one way or another, to do things in a certain way. But we've also got Pluto right here, and it's retrograde mode, and it's squaring her moon at 27 degrees. It's again a loose square, but it's still a square nonetheless, and it's squaring her sun at 27 degrees. As you can see here, there's a T-square here. So there's a lot of psychological pressure on her. So with her, it's more or less, can she handle the stress? That's what I'm seeing in this chart, because she's got all this, energy moving up here in this part of her chart, which has to do with emotions and feelings and security. And then we have these other alignments that are putting pressure on her in some way, some capacity. I know we have the debate going on September the 10th. It may not be that favorable for her, only because I'm seeing these alignments showing me that there's a lot of anxiety that's going to take place here. And so whatever, you take it for whatever it's worth, okay? So I think both of them need to pay attention to their health in this coming next few weeks. One having to do with anxiety and stress, the other one having to do with somebody wanting to, do them harm. So that's what I'm seeing here, all right? Now, let's continue forward. Now, on September 4th, we have Mars entering Cancer. Now, as you can see here, it enters on the 4th all the way through November the 3rd. Then it re-enters Cancer on the January 6th of 2025, because Mars will go retrograde on December the 6th of this year. And it will return back into Cancer, and it will be opposing the United States' Pluto. So we're going to see a lot of fireworks. Whatever's going to happen, and I talked about this, outlined this in one of my other videos, and I'll show you that in a second. But let's look at this Mars in Cancer. All right, so here it is right here. And Mars in Cancer is not the greatest alignment, because Mars is a fiery, get-up-and-go kind of energy, and Cancer is a moody, kind of stay-at-home, I want security kind of sign. And so this is going to bring out a lot of emotions and feelings and nostalgia in many people. So depending on where this is in your birth chart, it's going to activate a lot of that. But not only that, as it continues to move on, it's going to be squaring the nodes. Here's the north node, and the south node, which we can't see here, is the past. So we may have some issues coming up, maybe the middle of this month, perhaps the end of this month, involving leadership, military, friction, people getting upset for some reason. Anything involving Mars is about friction and battle, and it's in Cancer, so it's emotion and feelings. And so I'm seeing some irritation or agitation coming into the mix, especially towards the end of the month with the full moon lunar eclipse in Pisces. But I wanted to just give you an overview of what it looks like here. I do have charts for what's going on here. The United States' chart. The United States is a Cancer nation. As you can see here, it has 3 planets in Cancer. It will slowly make its way through here in the next couple of weeks. As it triggers these points, we could expect some major news stories, or anything to do with land, anything to do with emotions, people getting upset, maybe some more protests. But water is absolutely indicated here. Remember, I've been saying this for a couple of years now, because some of the outer planets are in water. Here's Saturn in Pisces, which is a water sign. Neptune in Pisces, which is absolutely a water sign. And we have now Mars in Cancer, which is another water sign. So issues around water are going to continue. And I have some stories about that in this presentation. I'll explain that to you. But overall, Mars is the agitator, or can be an agitator. It's a motivator and agitator at the same time. So as it makes its way through here, squaring the nodes, we may see some more stuff going on here with the United States, especially since it's the 4th house. We may see abrupt fires. We may see, kinds of people protesting. We may see things that involving landslides or anything of that nature, because we're talking about Cancer. Cancer is associated with the land, and especially with the North Node. This is in Aries. We may see some conflicts also militarily. I hope we don't get dragged into any conflicts around the world, but that is a possibility here as Mars squares the North Node. So we need to pay attention to all of this stuff, okay? So I'm just giving you a little overview. We also have Jupiter that's ready to conjunct Mars, as you can see here, which means a lot of talking, a lot of mudslinging, probably between the candidates, or people just getting frustrated and voicing their opinions. And so I see a lot of that as well. I try not to pay attention to it, but people are feeling this energy too, okay? So here we have, and I want to just give you an overview here, on October the 27th, Mars will be at 27 degrees opposing the United States' chart at 27 degrees, and it'll be in conjuncting the moon at 27 degrees. Do you see what I'm talking about, friends, when I say we might not have an election, or something will delay it, or an event could occur that may cause disruption in the mix, or there's conflict, or there's a battle going on, maybe there's a cyber attack of some kind, because I'm seeing Mars conjuncting Jupiter. So you see, October 27th, I think it'll begin before then, but it's a tough one. Anytime we have Mars and Pluto opposing each other, it's volatile, extremely volatile, okay? And we may see something along those lines. But on the 2nd, a couple of days before the elections in the United States, Mars is going to be opposing Pluto here. Do you see what I'm saying, guys? It is a tricky time. Mars is the fiery get-up-and-go agitator, and Pluto is the great destroyer. So I'm seeing some major issues going on here between the end of October, or maybe the middle of October, all the way through November. So let's see what happens. Again, it could be communications. It could be the solar event that I keep talking about. It could be a military issue. It could be something to do with the weather. I mean, it is really hard to tell. Hopefully, I will tune into it a little bit more. And as it gets closer, this is how spidey senses work. As you get closer to a date, or as something is coming into view, the spidey senses will start tingling very strongly. And this is very natural. This is how it works. And I'll give you an example. When animals know there's an earthquake coming or bad weather coming, usually within the hour or a couple hours before, they start acting up. They start getting weird because they are sensing some sort of change in the air. Humans are no different, okay? It's just that we have brains and we tend to overthink. But animals are more in tune because their senses are more alert. They're more in alignment with energy. And so as we get closer to these dates, hopefully, I'll get a clearer picture of what it is that's coming. And so this is going to be a very interesting time. Anyway, if you want to watch what I said about the future of 2025, I did a more in-depth alignment and I left the link down below for this video. I go into some of the tricky alignments that are coming in just at the beginning of 2025. So check that out below when you get a chance. Now, let's go back to Kamala Harris and the Mars in Cancer here. Mars is in her first house. And overlooking her chart, there's really not a whole lot that I'm seeing to be overly concerned with her chart. I mean, there is this Mercury, but it's making a favorable alignment. So here I believe that, Mars does not help her here because Mars in the first house is very aggressive, but it's in Cancer. So once again, I'm gonna stick to what I was saying about her having a lot of nervous anxiety and stress about talking, or wherever she goes, you could just tell she's very uncomfortable, with what she's doing. But whatever reason, I'm sure she's been put in this position for a reason. And again, you don't get to this level without people behind you putting you in these places. Okay, so she may have a little bit of a tough time with this Mars going through her first house, making her feel more nervous and anxiety ridden than normal. In Mr. T's chart, it's in his 11th house of the future. And this one is also very tricky for him as well, because Mars will be squaring Neptune and then eventually be squaring Chiron, which again, and his north node is right here, okay, in the 8th house of death and rebirth. And so I'm going to say here that this again is a tricky time for Mr. T with his health. He needs to pay attention. And by the way, Aries rules the head. So I hope there's not another attempt, something to do with his head or being thrown at his head or whatever it is. And I hope I'm wrong. But, this is a very tricky alignment here, because we have sort of a T-square coming into being here with Neptune and possibly the North Node. And the North Node is what we're striving for, and it's in his 8th house of transformation. So it's a very tricky time for him. And by the way, Mars will continue to square even Jupiter. So he's got a tricky month ahead of him, maybe a month and a half ahead of him, that he's going to have, and it's involving his health. Okay, that's what I'm saying, because of Uranus right up here, squaring his Mars. So he needs to pay attention to his health. Anyway, let's move on. On September the 9th through September the 26th, we have Mercury going into Virgo, which amps up the Virgo energy even more. Mercury in Virgo is extremely analytical. Every little detail, every little nuance, every little subtlety, Mercury in Virgo wants to analyze it up and down and back and forth. So now this energy gets amped up even more. And if we're not careful, Mercury in Virgo could activate the stomach and the nervous system in all of us. So we have to pay attention to what we do to ourselves physically, what we eat, what we're doing around other people, and so on and so forth. But this could bring a little more anxiety. So pay attention to what you're doing, okay? Now, let's go to the big news of the month, which is the full moon lunar eclipse on the 17th, and it's going to be in Pisces at 25 degrees of Pisces. And I do have a chart here. And this is a big one, because this is a lunar eclipse. Lunar eclipses usually bring things to light, and you come to some sort of realization, and usually they bring in endings. That's what a full moon lunar eclipse does, okay? And so we may see something in the next 6 months that comes to an end, comes to a close. We come to a realization, and it could occur within the next couple of months after this lunar eclipse. Remember, eclipses are very powerful, but they're the strongest at the 3rd month and the 6th month from that eclipse, just as I showed you with the April 8th eclipse. The next one is going to be right around October the 8th. That week of October the 8th, we need to pay attention for major events to occur around there. But this lunar eclipse is in Pisces, which is the spirit, spirituality, mysticism, dissolving. It's about self-sabotage. Pisces, unfortunately, is associated with limitations. It's associated with victimization. It's associated with addiction. On the positive side, it's very creative. It's very spiritual. It's very mystical. It's very intuitive. So pay attention to your intuition around this full moon. Okay, so let's get into one of the charts. So if you don't know what a lunar eclipse is, it's when the Earth blocks out the sunlight to the moon. And the moon represents the past. The moon represents the consciousness, the subconscious, and it represents the emotions. And so when the sun cuts that energy off, or that symbolically the energy off, the moon is sort of left out in the cold, and it's like I'm being left alone and I have to go off on my own. That's the kind of energy that we see here with a lunar eclipse. Okay? So let's get to the full moon lunar eclipse chart in Pisces. There it is at 25 degrees, opposing the sun at 25 degrees. So wherever this is in your chart, you really need to pay attention, because this will highlight something to do with your spirituality. Your intuition in that area will be very strong. Maybe you have a bad habit you need to let go of. This could be a good time for it, because Neptune is conjunct the full moon, and Neptune is the ruler of Pisces. So you can see here, this is a very strong indication having to do with letting go of something or someone or some situation that does not work for you anymore on a personal level. Okay? Now, on a societal level, we may see issues around water. We may see issues around, people just not wanting to be in this world anymore. Maybe people getting sick. And major, I don't want to say outbreak, but there could be news of, people leaving this world because of some disease. That is a very strong possibility with this lunar eclipse. And of course, the sun is still in Virgo, the sign of health. And it is making a loose connection or a loose square to Jupiter. So again, announcements or information will be coming to the forefront around this time. Now, of course, I think I have Mr. T's chart also. He gets sentenced on the 18th, so let's see what happens there. But Pisces also represents incarceration, okay, because it's limitations and it feels trapped, again, generally speaking, with the Pisces energy. So again, we're seeing a very tricky time where something gets brought to light and is dissolved or changed or transformed in some major way. And there'll be announcements about it, or there'll be, events involving water, emotions will be very strong around this time. Unfortunately, Pisces could also represent depression. So I want you folks that are listening to me, do not go into depression mode around this time, because Pisces does feel sorry for itself. It's the sign of the martyr. And so, because Pisces feels everybody's pain. So there could be an event that takes place and everyone feels sad or depressed. Please remember this video when I talk about this lunar eclipse in Pisces. We're all going to be feeling this energy. And if we amplify it, it makes it worse for everyone, So send out positive energy, positive light, around this time to those that need it, that need to heal and need to, remember who they are. So we have a very tricky lunar eclipse in Pisces. So here in the United States' chart, it's again in the third house of information. So once again, it's over the United States is Neptune as well. So I'm going to say there's things related to the medical field, if you know what I'm saying. And it's squaring Jupiter and Jupiter and Mars right there. And Mars, transiting Mars, is on the United States' chart. So something to do with leadership, something to do with health matters is on the table around this time in the United States. So let's see what happens. Again, it could have something to do with water. Could have something to do with somebody passing away, somebody very important, like an ex-president or somebody very well known could also be exiting the stage, And I'm not saying it's Mr. T. I'm not saying it's Kamala. I'm just saying it could be an ex-president, How many do we have left? We have Clinton and Obama. And I'm not saying they're going to cross, but I'm just saying it's possible. Because of this alignment being in a very high position here. There could also be announcements from the Supreme Court because it's in the 9th house, okay, about a ruling on something. So this is going to be a very interesting full moon to watch, all right? So let's see what happens. In Kamala's chart, the full moon is again in her 10th house, opposing the sun here. Once again, we have the 10th house, 4th house axis. Now, unfortunately, given this here in the 10th house, I would make a prediction that say she's not going to win the election, okay? Because anytime you have a lunar eclipse like this in the 10th house, that means something's coming to an end. Something is completing. Something is not working, right. And of course, this falls in line with the election on November. So let's see what happens. But she does need to pay attention to her health or possibly her spouse's health because it's close to her Venus. You see, Venus is 1725, and she's got Saturn conjuncting Chiron. She might have some health issues, or someone in her life might have some health issues, like a father figure or a male figure in her life, because Saturn represents male figures, older male figures, like a father figure or grandfather. So maybe she has someone in her life that's not doing well health-wise. Okay, so this could be something that comes up for her in her chart. She's also got an inconjunct to her sun and transiting Venus. So something to do with her partnership, something to do with relationships, something to do with family dynamics is in the mix here during this lunar eclipse that she needs to really pay attention to. Okay, so let's see what happens, see how it all unfolds. In Mr. T's chart, he's got it again in the 8th house of death and rebirth transformation. Now, I know many of you are going, oh, no, he's not going to die. I'm not saying he's going to die. I'm saying this is the house of death and rebirth. This is the house of transformation. This is the house of shared resources. And as you can see here, there's a lunar eclipse sitting right there. And so what this could indicate, because Pisces is limitations, restrictions, or imprisonment, it's very possible, this is why I made that prediction a while back, that I do see Mr. Trump possibly with a orange jumpsuit on. Okay, and whether it's for theatrical reasons, to get people all riled up, or if it's just temporary, a couple of days and then he's out, or something along those lines. But this is restriction of some kind, you see, and it's in his second house to his eighth house. And again, it is making that alignment to his moon right there, you see, and Jupiter. Jupiter is opposing his moon. So we're seeing a giant cross here too, which could indicate restriction of some kind. You follow? And so that's how it works in astrology. It's a symbolic language. And if you keep looking deep enough and tuning into it, you begin to see the patterns. And so I'm going to say this full moon is going to affect Mr. T more than it will Kamala because of the alignments that I'm seeing here. All right? Let's see what happens. That's all I could say. Again, I don't wish ill on anyone. So let's see what happens. Also, getting back to the water issues, there's water issues all around the world, and this is from Adapt 2030, and David does a great job. He did a great video. We also have Redacted talking about the volcanoes in Italy that are starting to bubble up, and he's basically saying there's going to be many people that are going to cross over, and that is a very possible during these next couple of months because of this cosmic energy and the intensity that's coming in, and the astrological alignments, especially between Mars and Pluto. That could be explosive energy having to do with volcanoes, earthquakes, all of that stuff. You see, friends? And that's how how you kind of have to look at it from a symbolic way. But what's so interesting to me is, and even he talks about this, is the last time Mount Vesuvius erupted, was in 79 AD. And remember, that destroyed Pompeii, and there was a lot of death in that time. 79 AD. Very interesting, because David here from Adapt 2030 talks about this, and this is that video I was telling you about. I left the link down below. He's been talking about the 4 outer planets and how they're going to be pulling on the sun, and the last time we saw this alignment was 79 AD. Okay? So do you think there is a reason to pay attention in October? And he has it here for October 14th, but that doorway is wide open from October the 2nd all the way through November, because these 4 outer planets will be sitting out there: Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Saturn. And look at here. Look at the sun. There's the Earth and the moon, and there's nothing in front of the sun. So these gas giants are going to be pulling, you see? And the fact that this is going to happen, again, the same cycle, the same pattern as that supervolcano that erupted in Italy in 79 AD, and we have this alignment going on in October, there could be a massive event, again, that changes things on this planet. And, it doesn't take much. Because if you understand, one volcano, I think there was one in Indonesia, that erupted in the 1800s, and it sent so much smoke and so much pollution into the air you couldn't see the sun. That's how bad it was. And so I'm not saying that's going to happen, but all the indicators are there, friends. Okay? I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. I'm trying to give you a realistic possibility. I hope it's wrong, but that's how it works. Okay? And so let's see what happens. This was another picture that he took. This is the same video he had of the sun reflecting itself through the cloud covers. Now, if you understand this, now I've known this for a long time, that and scientists know this as well. We live in a multidimensional world. Now, this is just clouds reflecting upon themselves, but this also is much deeper than that. Every time we see a rainbow, you're seeing 7 different layers right before your eyes. And so this is kind of like a rainbow. And so this right away reminded me, I said, oh, look at this. We're beginning to see other dimensions. Fantastic. Because our world, friends, is a multidimensional reality. And how do I know this? From my ayahuasca experience, from my magic mushroom experiences. And I've had 4. And so first thing I saw within the first hour was all this geometry that was forming everywhere. because the pineal gland was tapping into something beyond my mind. It was seeing the actual makeup of the universe that we cannot see. It's all light. And so I saw this and I said, oh, this is very interesting. And so we are multi-dimensional beings. And this is why I found this picture very fascinating, because you see there's different aspects of ourselves here going through infinity. This is who we really are, and we're the energy in the suit. Follow? So when I saw that picture of the sun, I said, oh, that is so cool. I've got to talk about this. So for those of you that have gone down the rabbit hole of truth, you will come to the same conclusion that I have and so many other people have, that we are some form of energy in these suits having the experience, and that we have multi-dimensional aspects of ourselves that we're constantly resonating out or connecting to in this field of consciousness. Okay? So real fascinating stuff. Anyway, if you do enjoy what I'm talking about, my inner circle, every week I have a Zoom call. We talk about different topics, and I do go into the spiritual aspect. I do go into the mystical. I do go into the science of it, and I talk about that. I talk about the weekly astrology. I talk about, anything and everything on there, unfiltered. So I left the link down below if you're interested, okay? Here. There's also the free reading. There's a link down below. Free mini reading. You want to support me and help me out. You could get, if you purchase the report, I do get a little commission. It's not a big deal, but I gotta be honest with you. Thousands of people have ordered these things, and it's been great because the information on these reports is fantastic. It's very good, very well done. And, you're helping me and this network, and this channel and my team. I do have a couple of people that work with me, so you're helping us out. But at the same time, you're helping yourself out by understanding yourself a little bit better, okay? Also, here's the link to my private community and the free community. The one on the left is the free community. You want to join? Great, with like-minded souls. But if you want more and go deeper into, understanding things, join the inner circle, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. All right? So anyway, have a great new moon, and I will talk to you folks soon, okay? Bye for now.